Hey, I'm back. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums. And today I'm going to be doing an album review on the new Quadeca album, Vanisher Horizon Scraper. So, Ben Lasky, aka Quadeca, is back with a new album, and it was released right on the exact day I traveled and I left Hong Kong, which happened a week ago, so I wasn't able to do this review as soon as I would have loved to. But I downloaded the entire album and I listened to it for a little bit, and I listened to it more, and I found myself really enjoying it. Now, if you didn't know this, Ben Lasky, aka Quadeca, is a YouTube rapper, and we're living in the big year of 2025 where the words YouTube rapper and YouTube filmmaker shouldn't be insults anymore, because there are genuinely amazing, talented people making music and making films coming out of YouTube maybe a few years ago. And Quadeca, same here. Quadeca has been making silly rap music on YouTube, and not a lot of people really took him seriously until he started taking it very seriously. A few years ago, he released the album I Didn't Mean to Haunt You, which is a crazy genre switch up for Quadeca, where he begins to move over to art pop and folk and neo psychedelia even. And then of course we have the Scrapyard mixtape, which actually only released last year. It's actually a really recent release, but Scrapyard showcases a lot of amazing talent from Quadeca, both production and rapping and songwriting and singing as well. So of course Quadeca is on the up and up, and based off of his amazing trajectory, of course he's going to be releasing one album that is even more ambitious and big and thematic. And so we have Vanisher Horizon Scraper. And once again, this is a beautiful kaleidoscopic mirage of rap music, art pop, electronic, and folk, and it's absolutely stellar. Now, this new album here is a whole new level of Quadeca that I was not even anticipating. There were so many layers of instrumentals on every single track, so much so that it's almost overwhelming. There are a lot of vocal layers on every single track, both rustic and raw, and the instrumentals are so loose and textured. At some point, it could even come off as self-indulgent, which when I looked at Rate Your Music, the reviews, some people complained that this album was self-indulgent, and I usually dislike that term. I don't like it when people say, oh, this film is bad because it's self-indulgent, this album is bad because it's too indulgent. It's like, that's like the fucking point of art. No, but there are definitely times where Quadeca goes so far on this album, so maximally, that it becomes a little bit of a mess. But anyways, we have the album opener No Questions Asked, which is an intro with clear pianos, dusty percussion, bits of flutes, guitars, the vocal layers sort of cleanly and brightly yet tenderly building upwards. It's an incredibly cinematic opener. The complaint I have, though, is that it just felt too long. I just feel like it didn't have to be 6 minutes long, and a 6 minute long opener is great, but I just feel like this track in particular just doesn't have any clearly set build up to something. It doesn't really build to Waging War, which is the second track, and upon finishing the album, this track is actually a loop from the ending of the album, so it kind of loops back to the beginning, a little bit of cinema moment, absolute cinema. That's cool, that's smart, but I feel like he's biting a little bit more off than what he can chew on this opener, because this essentially just sets up for, I guess, hopefully the greatest cinematic album ever, which unfortunately it's not. But it's just such a confident opener that I just wish it would be a little toned down. But anyways, the rest of the album pretty much delivers on that, and is still one of the most cinematic musical experiences I've had in a while. We have Waging War, which has these cold and sweet and sour guitar chords that reminds me of Radiohead's Daydreaming. And then we have these really cinematic rushes of percussions and vocals that sort of build up and down, kind of like ocean waves clasping. And then whenever these waves sort of glide by, we have some lonesome vocals, waging war. And it's just really blissful and messy in the second half. It's honestly amazing. Also, lyrically, it's about death and mortality. It's surreal, it's wonderful, it's strange, and it's amazing. The next track, Ruin My Life, starts off with some rain sounds and some light woodwinds, both things I really love. Speaking of which, it's actually raining outside right now because it's always raining in Hong Kong. But yeah, these instrumentals make this track one of the most endearing and lovely ballads off of the entire album, and it sort of builds up and swells into a gorgeous finish. Lyrically, it's about choosing life, choosing your own path, and it is a genuinely great track. Then, God Stained. The more I listen to this song, the more I love it, so much so that it's probably become my favorite song of the year so far. We have loose guitars and cellos in the beginning, which for some reason give off a bit of Indian vibe. I don't really know why. I think it's the way the cellos are arranged, but the rest of the track is this dreamy folk ballad with finger snaps, lively flutes, shakes, and it's beautiful. I feel like I'm slowly cruising down a river that leads to nowhere in a golden sunset, forever trapped in this dreamscape. The percussion gets really nimble and snappy at the end, and a quick little rap verse builds into the track, which adds so much personality to the song. And I feel like this is something Midair Thief would do, which is a big deal considering how much I love Midair Thief. Now, the next track is At a Time Like This, which is a big set piece, reverse tones, muffled, glitchy vocals, horns, and strings. I just feel like it's a bit overwhelming. I just feel like after the last track, we really desperately needed something more simple, which eventually would come in the track Monday, which starts off with humble string arrangements, some rain sounds again, and this is a really genuine Baroque pop song about wanting to make a move on someone whom he is infatuated with. It's about wanting, it's about yearning, it's about having hope, it's about darling, keep your hopes up on a Monday, and it's really endearing and touching, and I really like it. Then Dancing Without Moving is a pretty straightforward art pop song with verses and choruses with equally lush instrumentals, very funny little call and response moments in the first verse. I feel like there's something like Outkast would do or something. And then That's Why is another big piece that feels more like decorum, if anything, even though I think conceptually I really like this track a lot because the first half is real existential, but then the second half becomes beautiful and inspiring. But the production does come off a little too messy at times, with guitars and field recordings and literally 10 other things happening at the same time. It does, again, feels like decorum more than actual genuine songwriting sometimes, which feels like an insult. It's not. It's still a really good song, but damn, it's a lot. Okay, I Dream About Sinking is a quiet moment where it's basically 4 minutes of cinematic strings, and normally I'd love this, but there's something so unnecessary about this track. Like, does this lead to the next song smoothly? Not really. Is this a big emotional moment on the album? Not really. So it just feels like a very long interlude that doesn't really have a sense of place on the album. But the next track, Natural Causes, I really liked. I liked the sunburnt, hypnagogic instrumentals, the crushing percussion, the whooshing sounds. I feel like I'm underground in some metro station, and also the off-kiltered musical box harps that I really like. Then the track Thunder is a deconstructed rap banger with braggadocious 808s and beats, except those beats are actually made up by 20 different drums and silly mouth sounds. I really admire the creativity. I really admire the creativity. I really admire the kookiness of the track, and I enjoyed it. The Great Bakunawa is a song where Quadeca raps in the POV of a moon-eating dragon. As if we're not conceptual enough. And Danny Brown is usually great on literally everything he's on, but I feel like this track just didn't really click with his vocal style. His kooky, crazy, wacky rapping just doesn't work with the more lush and tender side of the instrumentals on this track. Foregone. Wow. This is an 8-minute piano ballad that is just amazing with a lush string intro, and the ballad itself is very maximalist, and again with the existential lyrics it is amazing. And the album ends off with Casper, which is a 7.5-minute atmospheric dystopian art rock closer with frantic vocals from Maruja's frontman, super noisy ending which leads back to the first track. But there's this really impressive moment near the end of the track where the music becomes muffled and watery and then crisp and clean again and then back to watery. It's such an insane production moment. It's honestly kind of mind-blowing. And I also just really love how water plays such an important role on this album. And every time I see a film or an album that really use the concept of water really well, I feel a little jealous, because literally one of my dream passion projects also involve water and rain and rivers and floods. And to see another artist sort of doing the same thing, I'm like, God damn it. Maybe I'm not that ahead of my time. Either way, this is a great album. Sure, a little bit too overwhelming at times, but definitely still has some of the most well thought out, most effortful, most lush and intricate production and songwriting of the year. I'm giving Quadeca's new album a decent 9. So, have you listened to Quadeca's new album? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.